On 27 April 1994, South Africa had a miracle. 20 million people voted. Nelson Mandela became president. The world wept with joy. Desmond Tutu called it the Rainbow Nation. Then, 32 years happened. This is the full story of what we did with the miracle. 27 April 1994. The miracle. Warm gold light bleeds across the screen. The sound of a crowd, enormous, joyful, building. A queue snakes around a dusty school in Soweto. It stretches as far as the eye can see. Young people, old people. A 90-year-old woman in her Sunday best who has never voted in her life. A man who drove 400 kilometers because he heard polling stations were running out of ballots and he was not going to miss this. 27 April 1994. South Africa's first democratic election. For the first time in the history of this country, all of it, every complicated, painful, beautiful kilometer of it, every adult, regardless of race, could vote. Around 20 million South Africans queued over a 4-day voting period with an 86.9% voter turnout. Nelson Mandela voted for the first time in his life in Eina, KwaZulu-Natal, near the grave of John Dube, the founding president of the ANC, Apartheid Museum. Mandela stands in the queue. A journalist approaches. "Mr. Mandela, you could go straight to the front." Mandela turns, smiles the smile that could power a city. "I waited 27 years already. A few more minutes won't hurt me." The ANC won the election with 62.65% of the vote. The National Party received 20.39%, the Inkatha Freedom Party 10.54%. South African History Online. 10 May 1994. The Union Buildings, Pretoria. Mandela is inaugurated as South Africa. The whole world is watching. Mandela at the podium, voice steady as the Drakensberg. Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another. Standing ovation, confetti, tears. The rainbow appears literally over the Union buildings. And for one extraordinary, shining moment, the whole world believed it was possible. Then the work began. South Africa's new constitution was adopted on 8 May 1996. It was called, without exaggeration, one of the most progressive governing documents ever written. The world sent delegations to study it. People cried reading it. A foreign diplomat reads the Bill of Rights. A single tear rolls down his cheek. His assistant, "Sir, are you all right?" The diplomat, "They have the right to dignity in here. Just the right to dignity, written down." He weeps harder. Mandela walked onto the field wearing a Springbok jersey, number 6, François Pienaar's number. The Springbok jersey had been the symbol of white South Africa for a century. Black South Africans had cheered against the Springboks their entire lives. Mandela put on the jersey. Black South Africans in a Soweto shebeen watching the TV go silent, then explode. The Springboks win. Pienaar lifts the trophy. In the stadium, 65,000 people, including thousands who had never cheered for the Boks a day in their lives, chant NEL-SON, NEL-SON, NEL-SON. Desmond Tutu said later that Mandela in that jersey did more to unite South Africa in one moment than 10 years of speeches. He might be right. The TRC gave South Africa something no other post-conflict society had attempted at that scale, a systematic public reckoning with the past. People came and told the truth about what was done. Some got amnesty, some didn't. Nobody got enough justice. But something important happened in those rooms. Something was named. South Africa's TRC delivered its final 3,500-page report to President Mandela on 31 July 1998. It was based on years of testimony from the people who ran the 1960 to 1994 white government and their victims. Tutu at the TRC hearing, weeping openly after a particularly devastating testimony. Journalists ask, "Archbishop, how do you keep going?" Tutu, through tears, the warmest smile. Because this is what healing looks like. It is not clean, but it is real. 1999. Mandela steps down after one term as president. He was 80 years old. He went home. He planted tomatoes. He called people. He was the man who was the face of the liberation struggle. And when his term ended, he left. Mandela waters his tomatoes in Kunu. "Mr. President, aren't you worried about what comes next?" Mandela, not looking up, "I have tomatoes to worry about. The country has new people now. Let them worry." He was the only African head of state in the post-independence era to voluntarily relinquish power without a military escort, a coup, or a constitutional crisis. He just went home. We have not fully appreciated what a miracle that was. 1999. Mbeki elected. Thabo Mbeki became South Africa's second democratically elected president. The Democratic Party became the largest opposition party after being the fifth largest party in the 1994 elections. Mbeki at his inauguration, impeccably dressed, pipe in hand, quoting Yeats and Shakespeare and Biko in the same paragraph. Thabo Mbeki was brilliant, possibly the most intellectually formidable head of state of his era. He could quote Biko, Shakespeare, and Keynes in the same sentence. He was also, on one specific issue, catastrophically, fatally wrong.
Thabo Mbeki questioned the scientific consensus linking HIV to AIDS. He questioned whether antiretroviral drugs worked. He gave platforms to AIDS denialists. He was wrong. The evidence was overwhelming. And while he deliberated and debated, graves, rows of graves. A study by Harvard University later estimated that Mbeki's delay in rolling out ARVs cost more than 330,000 South African lives. We have the medicine. The world donated the medicine. It is sitting in the warehouse. The president says the science isn't settled. The doctor stares for a long time, stares at the patients, stares back. The science is settled. 1999. The arms deal. The first crack. The 1999 arms deal set a precedent for cases of large-scale corruption and high levels of bribery and embezzlement in the ANC. South Africa, a post-apartheid democracy that needed hospitals and schools, purchased 30 billion rand worth of fighter jets, submarines, and frigates that it didn't immediately need. South Africa bought submarines. Submarines! For a country with no maritime enemies, whose primary security challenges were poverty and crime, whose navy had approximately 3 working boats. The submarines were not for defending the coastline. The submarines were for making certain people very rich. 2004. The good news? Economic growth. South Africa's economy grows. The rand strengthens. BEE opens doors previously welded shut. A black middle class expands rapidly. The first cars, the first houses, the first generation in families who will go to university not because of charity, but because opportunity exists now that didn't before. It wasn't all bad. Between 2000 and 2008, South Africa's economy grew consistently. Millions of people received grants, old age pensions, child support grants, disability grants. By 2010, South Africa was providing the largest social grant program on the African continent. 15 million people received support who had nothing before. A grandmother gets her first old age pension. She looks at the card, then at the cash, then at the sky. She says nothing for a long time. Then Mandela, just his name, as thanks. Jacob Zuma, 2009 to 2018. The 9 wasted years. Jacob Zuma became president of South Africa in 2009. In many ways, what followed was the most consequential decade in post-apartheid history, not for what was built, but for what was destroyed. Jacob Zuma, 2009 to 2018. The 9 wasted years. Jacob Zuma became president of South Africa in 2009. In many ways, what followed was the most consequential decade in post-apartheid history, not for what was built, but for what was destroyed. 2010, the FIFA World Cup, one last rainbow moment. Who can forget the throngs of people chanting "Nelson" as Mandela entered the stadium to congratulate the Springboks on their victory? It was a unifying moment for South Africa. June 2010, Johannesburg, Soccer City. The whole world watches South Africa host the FIFA World Cup. For 1 month, one extraordinary, bittersweet, magnificent month, everything else stops. South Africa was magnificent. The stadiums, the organization, the warmth, the vuvuzelas, which the rest of the world found maddening and which South Africans consider a perfectly reasonable musical instrument. Bafana Bafana exited in the group stage. Nobody cared. The party was that good. Stadium lights, millions in the streets, a country singing as one. This was the last time the whole country felt like one thing. We remember it often.